Right, we'll start. May the Lord give this council the wisdom, discernment and courage to serve the community. Grant also that we may act compassionately and with integrity in the best interest of this Shire, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. I would like to show respect and acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land and elders past, present and future on which this meeting takes place. This meeting is now being audio-video recorded, and those in attendance should refrain from making any offensive statements. There are to be no other recordings of this meeting without prior authorisation of council. Councillor Abbott's with it. Okay, councillors, Councillor Abbott, can you hear us on Zoom?
Yes, I can. Are we YouTubing this?
No, I can't hear you, Councillor Abbott.
Evening.
Have you muted?
Can you hear me now?
No, sorry, we can't hear you.
I'm not muted. Okay. Well, I'm not on mute.
Is it all now in, Robin, or?
Just check this one.
Can you hear me yet?
We've just got a slide hold up. We can't hear you, Councillor Abbott. Can you hear us now?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yes, that's it, Councillor. We got you now. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, yes, I could hear you all the time.
Thank you.
I've just written in the chat, is this meeting on YouTube tonight?
Is the meeting on YouTube?
Meeting on YouTube? Yes.
Thank you.
You're very hard to hear. You got any more volume on your end or this end?
Try it this way.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on. Apologies. Nil apologies. Okay, public participation on G12.
Oh, sorry, I've got an application for leave.
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah, application for leave requested by Councillor Campbell, and the dates are 17th December to the 25th of January for a medical procedure.
Got a mover? We have Councillor Burns, second Councillor Fisher. All in favour? Against?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, councillors, we've got public participation. Peter Willard is zooming in shortly. We've got Kay and David Munro, Rob Willis, Scott Bridge written submissions. All councillors got those on their desk. And Sandy Warburton and Sarah Lorden. So, Peter Willard, can you hear us on Zoom? Okay, we'll try again in a minute. We might go straight through to Kay and David Munro. Public participation on G12.5 Scone Regional Airport Wildlife Hazard Management. If you come up to the mic, please, you'll get 5 minutes to present your case and you'll hear a bell, and that means a minute to go. Thank you.
At the airport drop-in sessions, people objecting to the fence height and aesthetic changes were told a council representative would come to each private property owner bordering the airport to discuss the fencing issue. Instead, we have to come here tonight to express our concerns. At every drop-in the airport manager attended, this person consistently told us that we had to have wildlife fencing for CASA certification. At one meeting, the Mayor explained that this was only a recommendation. I hope you can understand that all this mixed messaging only adds to our confusion. Problem is, a letter made available to us by the airport manager addressed to this same person, Airport Plus, 25th of October 2020, and a letter from CASA, 29th of October, same year, lists a number of non-compliance issues needing to be addressed. This document nowhere mentions fencing, which implies that fencing is just another unnecessary expense for all the upper hunter ratepayers that will be paying the debt for the airport upgrades with no guarantee of return. The wildlife rescue site, I've got it written here, states, is a fence necessary? I believe the airport committee has recommended a 2.1 metre fence topped with barbed wire, as well as being wildlife unfriendly. The same wildlife rescue site just suggests no barbed wire. It would A, add to the expense, and B, be aesthetically unappealing. Remember, this fence is not even considered necessary. I am curious about a letter to me on the 10th of February 2020, OUT-740/20, explaining that the erection of wildlife fencing around airport perimeter. I'm wondering if a tender was accepted and budget allocated for the said fence at the March council meeting. What puzzles me is the same letter, OUT-740/20, clearly states council is required to erect wildlife fencing around the perimeter of the airport. Council special project manager showed us a map showing that one property owner outside of the perimeter is exempt. I can only expect that all the other property owners adjacent to the airport were offered the same option. I'm sure the council should not be seen to treat one ratepayer differently than all the other ratepayers. Owners on the southern/western sides adjoining the airport, where there are farms and acreage, do indeed have a roo problem. When we first came here, my horse used to have a fit each evening as the mob of kangaroos that would migrate along the southern side of the airstrip. The council, in their wisdom, allowed the Kookaburra State subdivision, leaving nowhere for the roos to go, so they used the airstrip to travel. I think these property owners are not opposed to a fence with height for safety. However, it still leaves not much options for the roos, which do not understand English and have now lost their traditional migration path, only to get hit by cars on the road. I suggest properties with known roo incursions have a fence, around 2 metres, but with no barbed wire and a floppy top. The Mayor expressed he would like a fence, as he would feel bad if there was an accident. The roos he mentioned along Mrs. Widdis's old property, which the council now owns, obviously would be attracted by the pasture. I can assure you that these roos have never wandered into my property. I understand the Mayor's safety concerns. I suggest fencing heights vary according to circumstances as occurs along the Hunter Expressway. As I have no roo incursions on my property, only foxes, which are dealt with for now.
Mrs. Munro, that's your 5 minutes, sorry.
I was going to say, I don't see a need to change my fence, but thank you for
Thank you.
your time.
Just state okay, any councillors got any questions, Mrs. Munro? No questions? Okay, thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Peter Willard still not there, Robin?
He's just coming in now.
Oh, well, while he's coming in, we'll call on Robin Willis. Same, Rob, you've got 5 minutes and you'll hear the same tone. Thank you.
May I please have the clicker for my PowerPoint slide? I can use the mouse, yes. I'll just need the PowerPoint slide to that for me, please. That's fine for me. Okay. Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, good evening, councillors. Mayor Collison. My name is Rob Wills, and I'm here to speak against the proposed wildlife fence at Scone Airport. My partner and I recently purchased a property at 100 Sader Road that backs onto the airport, having picked Scone as the place to raise our family, and I've been involved in aviation in some form or another since I was 15. Now, why am I against the fence? Well, firstly, the proposed fence will cause an immediate drop in the property value, as well as putting our children, visitors and our pets at risk due to the proposed barbed wire top and lower skirt proposal. The dividend valuation alone is estimated to be a full 5% of the purchase price. Secondly, by replacing the current fence with a taller one will mean that I cannot upgrade to a larger plane as it will no longer fit through the gate. The current fence allows wingtips to pass over the top of the existing fence. Thirdly, there are not enough movements at the airport to require a wildlife hazard management plan at all, but nonetheless, council data shows Scone does reasonably well in that regard for wildlife strikes are below average. However, the percentage of damaging strikes is actually higher. But every wildlife strike in the last 20 years at Scone Airport has been a bird strike. There has not been a ground-based strike at Scone since the turn of the century. It's disappointing that the outcome of consultation with neighbours has not been included in the minutes here. Council has spoken with those at the drop-in session and have been strongly opposed to the proposed fence. It should also be noted that not all neighbours have been consulted with or informed of the drop-in sessions or fencing. Lastly, council previously used both trapping and culling of animals, and I cannot fathom why these are no longer considered satisfactory tools to manage wildlife. Here's the kangaroo, or you'll have to excuse me, the Zoom screens are on the opposite side there. Here's the kangaroo fencing for the last 3 years, 63 sightings in all. However, 31 of those have been outside the fence line, with only 32 actually on the airport. This works out to less than 1 kangaroo on the airport per month. You'll also notice there have been 0 sightings. You'll have to take my word for it here. There are 0 sightings on the residential side. It's actually covered by the Zoom screens there. Can I move that? This is going to impact my 5 minutes. I apologise. What do I do if I do that? Okay, there we go. So there you can see the 0 sightings on the residential side, contradicting claims that kangaroos have been seen transiting through that area. There. It's also worth noting that the issue encountered by the Yanda Airlines chieftain at Scone 20 years ago involving a partial wheels-up landing was not the result of a kangaroo strike at all. It was the result of a loose hydraulic fitting on the right engine following maintenance. The investigation report makes absolutely no reference to a kangaroo. The justification for the fencing is repeatedly claimed to be MOS 139. However, that, excuse me, no, there we go, I apologise, is repeatedly claimed to be MOS 139. However, that only requires airport operators to implement controls to mitigate the threat of wildlife on the airport. And the key word here is mitigate. Nowhere does it require an operator to eliminate the risk, which leads to the claim that option 2 will not meet compliance with 139 MOS and leave council at risk and potentially liable for damage. With respect to that claim is patently false. There is 0 legislation that requires any specific type of fence. And there has only been 1 instance of a council being found liable for damage caused by a wildlife strike, that being at Kempsey a few years ago. However, council appealed that decision and it was upheld, meaning there's been 0 cases of a council being held responsible for damage caused by wildlife. Council staff issued a survey to 5 other New South Wales airports to ask about their perimeter fences, these being Armidale, Moree, Narrabri, Orange and Tamworth. However, all of those airports have scheduled airline services and are defined as security-controlled airports. Scone is not. Furthermore, None of those airports have residential properties adjoining the airports, as you can see here. A more meaningful comparison would be to include airports that do have residential properties and no RPT services, such as Maitland, Temora and Narromine. Each of those three airports have instrument approach procedures and will themselves have to become a certified airport the same as Scone. In other words, they're functionally identical to Scone, albeit with significantly more movements. Double in the case of Temora and 4 times in the case of Maitland, which you can see here with these properties adjoining the airport in Mindella Estate. Of note, Maitland Airport has had 7 ground-based wildlife strikes in the last 20 years, yet they are happy with this style of fence for their neighbours. Temora Airport has residential properties on the airport itself in the form of an air park. And again, not only are their internal fences 3-foot high roll-top gal panels, but so is their outer fence adjoining the main road. Narromine Airport is virtually identical in that it has a 3-strand wire and star picket fencing in the residential area and, as you can see here, 3-foot high chain link at the Aero Club and the main apron. There is absolutely zero justification for an 8-foot high barbed wire topped fence in a residential area, an area where children play, people relax and watch the warbirds fly in the sunset. We are a quiet country town. We are not a detention centre. And for that reason, I urge each of you here tonight to reject option 3 outright. It is unwanted, it is unnecessary and it is unsafe. Option 2, the high fence along the paddock and a 4-foot high fence along the residential properties is in line with other comparable airports. It is in keeping with the residential character of the area. It would ensure compliance with MOS 139 and will ultimately be cheaper too. Thank you.
Thank you. That's your time. Thank you. Councillor, you got any questions? Stay there for a minute, Rob, please, in case you've got questions. Any questions? Councillor Campbell?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. Are you suggesting then that there are no kangaroos that have been on the Scone Airport?
Not at all. Your
Okay.
council data suggests there have been 32 kangaroos in the since January 18. If you'll excuse me, council, I will try to go back these screens. This is, keep going back. This is the official Scone Airport wildlife count, January 18 to current. And you can see 31 of these kangaroo sightings, if you'll excuse me, have been off the airport. We've got 6 outside the airport perimeter here, 7 outside, 5 there, 12 there, 2 there, as well as several on this paddock.
So what you're suggesting is that there have been no kangaroos on the actual airport?
No, councillor, not at all.
Well, I would dispute that, sir, because they were 2 years ago, especially during the drought, that was one of the problems that was out on the airport, that kangaroos and wildlife were on the airport. I'd also, as a farmer, I suggest to you that a 1.2 metre stop fence, small kangaroos will jump over that. 1.5 will stop most, and 2 metres would, or 1.8 metres would stop some of the big ones, unless they are absolutely huge. I'm suggesting that so anyway, what you're suggesting is that there needs to be no fencing needed.
No, councillor, that is not correct. I support option 2. Option 2 being a 2 metre high fence along the kangaroo paddocks where there is an actual risk. Right. I do not have an issue with that at all, councillors and Mayor. I do not have an issue with a 2.1 metre high barbed wire topped fence along these paddocks here where the kangaroos typically come from. What I am asking you to approve is a 4-foot, at most 5-foot high fence along the residential boundary. The reason for that, if I may, for kangaroos to jump a fence along these houses here, they have to come through a residential area. They have to cross, say, the road. They have to get across people's front yards, into their backyards, past their pets, past the people that live there, and then finally make it onto the airport. I'm not disputing that Scone Airport has had kangaroos on there at all. Indeed, council's own data shows 32 kangaroos on the airport grounds since January 2018. Personally, I consider 1 kangaroo a month a relatively low number. I say that having just hit a kangaroo in my car 2 nights ago driving back from Queensland. I dispute that a 2.1 metre high fence or higher, when you take into account the barbed wire overhang and the skirt, is reasonably necessary in a residential area, councillor.
Okay, look, thank you anyway. I don't want to argue the point with you, but perhaps the council will consider what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Any further questions? I've just got one. Could you bring it back up to your first slide?
Yes, mate.
Of the pit, yes. The country on the right-hand side of the gate, do you own?
That to the,
Yes?
right there, that is my
No,
property. yes.
go across to the,
That one
yeah,
there?
across in that paddock there.
That one there? No, I
Yep.
do not own that.
What about to the left-hand post?
That one there,
Yep.
that parcel there is Mr. Darren Saunders.
Right. So you were just quoting, just to clarify, if you bought a bigger plane, your wings would go over top of those paddocks. I don't think the neighbours would probably agree to that. Just for thought. Okay, thank you. No more questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors?
Okay, councillors, is Peter Willard now on Zoom?
Can you hear me?
Not very well. Not very well, Peter.
Can you hear me now?
Very, very slight. Have you got any more volume?
No. Can you hear me now?
Just speak again, please. Mr. Willard, can you hear me? Modern technology. Just while we're waiting so we can get him, Councillor Dunn, you got the Scott Bridges written submission and the Sandy Warburton and Sarah Lorden's written submissions in front. So everyone's had the opportunity to read them. And it looks like, unfortunately, we've lost Peter. So sorry you can't speak. Okay, councillors, we can't do anything about it, so I think we'll move on. Thank you for those who did the presentations. Okay, councillors, the confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary council meeting on the 30th of November. We've got a mover. Move Councillor Driscoll. Second. Councillor Fisher. Questions, comment, discussion around that?
Yes.
Councillor Abbott.
Yes, I'd just like to note on page 5 of 9 that it's been admitted to note that I resigned as the chair and as a member from the library committee. That's not noted in the minutes.
Did you get that notice? Could you just repeat that, Councillor Abbott, please? We had a little issue here too.
Yes, I resigned as the chair and as a committee member from the library committee, and whilst it's noted that I resigned from the heritage committee in the minutes, it's not noted that I resigned from the library committee.
Okay.
Did you hear that?
Yes, we'll take that on notice, get that rectified. Thank you.
And just also with respect to Mr. Willard, is it possible for him to, can we ring him on his mobile? I can see that he's trying to get back in.
Is he back on? We'll just finish this off first. So any questions, comment, discussion around that minutes? All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Okay, we'll just try Mr. Willard once more before we move on to the development environmental. Unfortunately, this will be the last attempt. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Not very well.
I can hear you.
Anyway, thanks for council for letting me participate, seeing I'm in hospital. I've spoken to Parks and Wildlife today, and to construct a fence which will harm wildlife or can't let animals freely pass through. They are not impressed with the fence, I have told them, with barbed wire on the top, which would cause the kangaroo to hang itself and die of a slow death. Now, as far as roos go on the strip, I've been here since 1980 and we haven't had a strike or an air miss with a roo. Now, the reason why the roos multiplied was that council installed a scare gun, which was useless and a waste of money. It did not do anything to the roos. And why it was installed, for 9 months, the numbers increased. I counted from my backyard with the binoculars, there was 130 odd roos. They only came about because we were stopped killing them or shooting them when there was 3 or 4, and they multiplied. As I said, the scare gun didn't do anything. And the roos multiplied and multiplied, and they were over on the strip, right? I used to ring pilots when they'd ring me, and I would tell them whether I'm the north or south end of it before they flew in. But as I say, council created the roos in that numbers by not allowing them to be shot or killed. And the New South Wales government, federal government, RSPCA and Parks and Wildlife have said that is a policy to shoot them as the most humane way to deal with them. So all that time, all those roos multiplied, why that gas gun was there. The only thing that frightened was the council worker when in the shed he fiddled with the gun before it was deployed, and the gun went off in the shed, rattled the roof, rattled the doors, and he was seen leaving the scene, holding his ears, and was profoundly deaf. That was the only thing that really scared. And as I say, as far as I'm concerned, the council created that big roo problem. And then how can you do a wildlife survey in 1 day by the consultant? That's only one person's opinion. And how could they come up? And he was relying on the work. The council worker there was reporting every bird, snake, fox, roos at some stage, and there was an ample list of wildlife, and they have used that to imply that they need an animal welfare, animal protection fence. Yet we don't need an animal protection fence. I think that there was a second, there was another reason for this animal fence, so they could get a security fence if they got an RPT, and that's very unlikely with the Muswellbrook and Singleton bypass. You can be in Sydney for 2 hours. Why would you want to pay $500 or $600 or more to fly to Bankstown, then try and get into the city? The shuttle service will drop you right at your door and pick you up from that door. And driving down is more viable than paying.
1 minute.
So I'll just finish off. I recommend that this meeting doesn't decide on the fence today and put it off till next year, so the residents can have a right to defend themselves, which they haven't had. No one has informed them, not up until the airport committee meeting. It was tabled what fence they want, and they never knew nothing about it, and they've never been spoken to as the council had promised. So I'm recommending that you vote to have it next year when the residents can defend themselves. And council, remember, it's the residents or the people of Scone that put you in office, and council and the councillors shouldn't decide on the fence. The people should have a right to defend themselves. The main thing that hasn't been mentioned is children. The only thing that's going to come out of the people's residence will be children, and they'll get very inquisitive on school holidays when they have a taxi planes taxiing past the back fence.
Okay, Mr. Willard, that's your time up, sorry. It's 5
Okay,
minutes.
well, thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions, councillors? Okay, thank you all very much. And what we'll do, councillors, so the public participation doesn't have to hang around if they don't wish to, can I have someone move G 12.5 up to the next report of council?
We haven't done disclosures.
Oh, disclosures. I'll just do the disclosure of interest first, sorry. So, GM.
Mr Mayor, we've received two forms today. First from Councillor Watts in relation to G 12.6 donations report. Pecuniary less than significant by virtue of the fact that she's the manager of the Scone Neighbourhood Resource Centre and she intends to leave the room. Second one is from yourself, Mayor, in relation to item CR 12.3 Australia Day Awards, and the action taken is take no part in debate around the awards and Citizen of the Year.
Thank you. Mayoral minutes nil. Reports nil. Okay, back to where I come from. G 12.5. Someone like to move that? We move that up in the agenda.
I'll move to suspend orders, standing orders to bring it up.
Move Councillor Burns. Second, Councillor Driscoll, was it? All in favour? Against? Carried. Those are councillors. If you turn over to page 102, G 12.5, the Scone Regional Airport Wildlife Hazard Management. Councillor Burns.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'll move this recommendation with an amendment that we endorse the Wildlife Risk Assessment Report, adopt the Wildlife Hazard Management Plan and control measures, including airside perimeter, excluding airside perimeter fencing. And number three, change number 3 to option number 2, construct a fence to a minimum of, I'm still struggling with this, Mr Mayor. The sizes, construct a fence of a minimum of 2 metres on no residential land boundaries, less than 2 metres on residential boundaries. The wording should figure at, it should be that at 1.5 at the residential boundaries and 2.1, which is simply because of the sizing of the fences that come. If we could cut it down, I think we should, and absolutely no barbed wire whatsoever.
So, Councillor, just so I understand, so that's on the rural side of 2 metres maximum?
Yes.
2.1, and the residential, did you mention the residential?
Yeah, residential at 1.5.
1.5, so I just didn't know whether you mentioned that. So we're very clear, councillors, on that? And no barbed wire whatsoever.
And the fencing should be as innocuous as possible. I think we discussed earlier about the black colouring, so you can't see it. We need to make it nice as it can be.
Just before we go on any more baiting, have I got a seconder for that motion?
Yeah, I'm happy to second that.
Second by Councillor Campbell.
Yes.
Have we got a speaker against it?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Fisher, just a clarification.
So the fences come in 1.8. 1.5 would go down the residentials, is that correct? Along the low risk Bunnan Road. Seder or Bunnan Road, whatever you want to call it. When you say so you're going to the 2.1 or do you want to go to the 1.8 on the?
Yeah,
Right, so I'll get this very clear. 1.8 on the rural property and 1.5 on the residential with no barbed wire whatsoever. Did you wish to just add that as a, if things went wrong in the years to come, or as you spoke to me about, or what's?
Look, I think, Mr. Mayor, if things do change in the future and it's shown that this idea is completely a farce, then we will have to in the future. I don't think we need to put that in the recommendation though.
Okay, that was just a mover and a second and a comment. Is anyone like to speak against?
Yes,
Against the recommendation?
yes,
Councillor Abbott?
yes. I'd like to speak. I think we should be doing what Mr. Willard suggested and deferring this to next year when it's had more thought. This seems to have been done on the run, and we're sort of cobbling together various things. I think we really need to think about this very carefully. It was plonked on the residents of the airport users and the residents who live near the airport sort of quite late in the piece. And I think there's been quite a mischievous interpretation of CASA's guidelines. By council's own data, roos are not the problem. Essentially, it's the birds that are an issue. If we look at the data, which was provided in the report, birds far outweigh the potential for bird strike. And that's actually something I'm quite familiar with that, given that my own father's RAF Jaguar hit birds. They had bird strike. He and his pilot both ejected. Unfortunately, he got tangled in an incorrectly packed parachute and he drowned in the Atlantic Ocean, but it's birds. It's not all those other animals that have been suggested. And as Mr. Wills pointed out, this is very, very few animals that are actually on the airport. We have our own data, which we have in this report. So I really do think we should defer this whole matter till next year, when we can give it some proper consideration and not go on this mischievous interpretation of CASA's guidelines, which we've been told we have to do this, and we've since found out that we don't. So this is very, very costly for the entire Shire. So people in Cassis and Murrurundi and Merriwall will end up paying for a very expensive fence that we may not need. I think council needs to spend a lot more time considering what we're doing rather than this cobbling together right now of something, because we're a little bit scared of how cross everyone's become, understandably. I'm very disappointed with the way the whole thing has been conducted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. I've got my feelings on it, and I'll certainly be voting for a fence of some description around the perimeter of the airport. I believe it's a necessity, and that's the only way I thought. But anyway, have you moved against, or is that just a comment?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, are you moving against, are you wish to put another motion up, or are you just speaking against the recommendation?
Yes. If I can put another motion up, I'd like to defer this whole matter till next year when we've had a lot more time to consider it, and when we can also speak to all the airport users and all the residents and all their families. This has been very much done on the hop, and it's not the way we should be conducting policy and spending ratepayers' money. And seriously, this reeks of favouritism and it's anti-competitive, and it's time we literally listened to what people have to say. We haven't been listening. The airport drop-ins have been quite farcical, and we really do need to listen what people are telling us.
Yeah, Councillor Abbott, thank you. I don't agree with that. The airport drop-in sessions have been very beneficial, and the last one was very good. So anyway, so you wish to move a motion? Have we got a seconder?
Yes, I will move.
Oh, sorry, you can't. What do you want to second it? Sure, you can speak. Thank you.
Look, I think we have moved a little bit closer with the reduction in the fences, but I actually, I note the report and I question the recommendation that was put forward from the fences height way back at the Lands Committee. I have confirmed that CASA do not specify the height or type of fence need for our airport. And this recommendation, look, the references to Australian standards for a security fence, but a security fence is not a requirement of CASA. In fact, there are many examples of airports which are certified with instrument approach landings, which only have 3-foot fences. And I don't want to repeat, I think a lot of this has been brought up today as it was, but I think it's a little bit over the top to have a security fence that is along these lines. We have not had a strike. Again, I'm repeating what has been said since the turn of the century. The risk is ridiculously low, and in fact, building such a high security fence could engineer other risk into the operation of the airport. There are lower parts of the fence where animals could enter, but once on the airfield would not be able to escape. Even airports with regular passenger services are no longer required to have high security fences in many regional areas. I am also concerned to hear from residents that they haven't been properly consulted. It's not good enough to explain the detail to them 1 week before. It's not proper when we're meeting only 1 week after the consultation. I support the concerns of the residents and I will not burden them, the ratepayers, with an over-the-top, expensive, unnecessary fence. Thank you.
And Councillor Watts, Councillor Burns, you wish to reply to that? Or you're quite happy? Well, you got the right to reply to I'm going to put the amended one up shortly. And Councillor Campbell, you don't wish to reply?
I would be speaking against that. I think that the understanding of mitigation, you don't mitigate against kangaroos with a 1.2 metre fence. And that's where, if we put that sort of fence up, we would not be meeting our obligations. You only need one kangaroo on there when a plane comes in, and then you will have an accident. And it's been well documented and well stated within this chamber regarding the kangaroos, and especially during the drought. We will have droughts in the future, but why are we looking back all the time? We want this airport to be used much, much more in the future. And if we're going to just do it and then just think, well, we haven't had a strike here since whatever it was, we're looking back. Let's look to the future. We want as many planes that can come in, more planes in the future that's going to make the usage of the airport much more worthwhile. So I'm speaking against the motion, and I shall not be voting against the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Abbott, you wish to reply on that, or you're fine?
Yes, I do wish to reply to that. I can't remember whose submission, but there was a public participation submission that makes the analogy with council-run roads, and that when we hit kangaroos on roads, you know, are we going to then start looking at that? Are we expecting that, you know, we're responsible for that? I do actually think that we're going to create, as Councillor Watt says, we're going to create more of a problem by creating this great big fence, whether it's just in sections or wherever. We will stop that wildlife corridor. I understand that kangaroos are problematic, but Council's own data points to the fact that it's birds that are the problem. It's bird strike, and bird strikes they tend to happen in the skies. They can happen on the ground, but there are things you can do. It's bird strike. It's not kangaroo strike. And we have council-run roads with kangaroos on them, and we haven't created these fences to try and keep them in their paddocks there. I think this is extremely costly, and it needs to be evidence-based. And right now it's not. And just projecting about droughts and kangaroos and accusing people who have a differing opinion of looking back into the past is just not helpful in deciding an issue like this, which will cost all the ratepayers, and that's ratepayers who live in castles, a lot of money to construct a fence that other airports are not doing. Well, I mean, we've been basing ourselves on Temora. They've been held up as the gold standard for everything we're trying to do, and they don't have this fencing. So why are we doing it? Why haven't we been more consultative? Why don't we listen to what the community is saying, who are completely, affected by that? So that's the airport business users, the residents who've bought property in their families. They are telling us very plainly and very clearly that we are completely misguided and that we are not going on evidence, and we are not looking around at what's happening in the rest of New South Wales.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. I'm just going to make one more comment before I put this to the vote. The recommendation is 1.5 down the residential. A normal bush fence is not much under that. And I'd imagine everyone that adjoins the runway would surely have some sort of a fence to prevent anything from getting onto the runway. So 1.5, I believe, is very, very fair and reasonable. So, okay, councillors, I'm going to put the amended motion up, which was Councillor Abbott's. Those in favour?
No, you've just spoken, so can't I speak again to finish off?
You've only got 1 word to reply.
But it's my motion.
I'm going to put you spoke twice on the recommendation.
Yes, but when it's my motion, which it is at the moment, it's in my court, don't I get to finish off?
You just finished off.
No, you came after me.
Yeah, but I'm going to put the vote up. Now, you've had your right to reply. You moved it. You had the right to reply. So now, councillors, I'm going to put the amended recommendation up, which is Councillor Abbott's deferral and Councillor Watts's motion. So hands up for the motion, referral. Second it. So Councillor Abbott and Councillor Watts for the deferral, against the referral, hands up. Collison, Fisher, Burns, Campbell and Driscoll. So that motion has been lost. We'll go back to the original recommendation by Councillor Burns. All in favour? Collison, Driscoll, Campbell, Burns and Fisher. Against? Councillor Abbott, Councillor Watts. No, you can't vote, sorry. So the recommendation is passed. No more questions, comment, discussion? Thank you, councillors. So that's, those wish to leave now can, or hang around and have some fun. You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome to sit in the back, but you can't speak. Sorry. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, councillors. The Development and Environmental Services Committee on page 1 of the agenda. We'll move them in 3 parts. 1, move Councillor Burns. Second, Councillor Fisher, sorry. Second, Councillor Campbell. Questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Dot point 2.
Oh, I wanted to say something. I just did have something to say. Sorry, you were very quick there.
Is this on dot point 1?
It was just with respect to, this is the development. Oh, sorry. No, you keep going. I beg your pardon.
Okay, councillors, back onto page 1. Number 2, DESC 12.1. Move Councillor Fisher. Second, Councillor Burns. Any questions, comment, discussion?
Yes, could you please read that out?
Aye. Against?
Could
Councillor Burns? Oh, show of hands, councillors, on dot point 2, all in favour. Councillor Abbott, you in favour?
I can't, I've actually, Google Drive has shut down on me, so I can't actually see it. So could you read out point 2, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, point 2 is relates to DESC 12.1. Approve development application number 82/2020 to regularise the use of in-ground swimming pool at 24 Alfred Brown Lane, Parkville, subject to the conditions of consent in attachment 2.
Yes, but I do have a comment at some stage.
Okay, councillors, show of hands in favour. All in favour, against, carried. That's dot point 3, DESC 12.2. Move Councillor Fisher. Second, Councillor Watts. Any questions, comment, discussion?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment because you're rushing, but I'd like to make a comment with regards to the condition of consent imposed preventing the use of the cabana, and I'm not sure which swimming pool that was because I can't get Google Drive to open. But it talks about how the cabana cannot be used for residential purposes. And then it talks about certain equipment that they can't have, such as a barbecue. And I'm just wondering, is that a bit restrictive? And does that mean that other non-residential structures are not to have appliances such as barbecues, like picnic areas and clubs and things? And I also wanted to know on page 15, What is the cardiopulmonary resuscitation guideline, and is it up to date?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Condition number 8 in relation to DA 82 of 2020. It appears to be a requirement of the Swimming Pools Act 1992. I guess it's to ensure there's adequate supervision within the pool area, that you're not distracted by other activities. Hence the reason why the cabana should not be used for other residential purposes. In relation to the resuscitation chart, I think it is. That's just again, it's a standard requirement of the Act that every.
So which guideline is it? Where do we find that guideline? How do we know it's up to date?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm just trying to find that condition that Councillor Abbott is referring to.
It was on page 15. I've written this in my notes. It's on page 15. And just with respect to the cabana, they seriously can't put a barbecue in there?
That's what the condition says. Through Mr. Mayor, I mean the guideline would be up to date. So the reference would be to the latest up to date guideline.
Thank you. So could somebody send me the guideline, please, so I can have a look at it? Not now. I mean, it can be after the meeting.
Mr. Mayor, yes, we can arrange that.
Yep. Can I just suggest, Councillor, if you're going to zoom in, I'd suggest, Councillor, you put these questions forward prior to, because it's very, very hard to understand, actually. I don't think you're really getting a fair go of what you're asking, because we are having trouble hearing properly. So maybe in future, just a quick email through, and you can quite talk, but we'll have it written in front of the directors, that's all.
Oh, I can write it in the chat if you want.
No, I didn't hear it. No, look, sorry, we're just having trouble. But anyway, we'll have to move on, councillors. So dot point 3, all in favour? Aye. Against? Show of hands, please. Aye. Councillor Abbott? Yep, all in favour? Against? Carried. Move over to page 20, SCR 12.2, infrastructure services. Move, Councillor Watts. Second, Councillor Driscoll. Questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to SCR 12.3, page 30, Corporate Services Committee. Mover. Move, Councillor Watts. Second, Councillor Burns. Questions, comment, discussion?
Yes, me. Can you hear me? Yes, so we didn't have a quorum for that. So how do we have, why do we have minutes?
We did have a quorum.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Okay. And also on page 33, the house next door to council, why can't we look at renovating that house rather than bulldozing it?
Councillor Abbott, it was discussed on several meetings I've been to, but I'll hand that over to acting GM.
Look, we have done an assessment previously that has indicated that it's not fit for purpose, but we have had a few developments today which I can't really talk about now, but I'm happy to take that on notice, and we'll bring something back to council in terms of the condition of that building and the suitability for distressed people's housing.
Councillor,
thank you. And
yes, Mr. Mayor, just on that, we've moved a motion in this chamber about knocking that down. That was about 2 years ago. It's ratified by council.
that's correct, Councillor Burns. That would have to be rescinded motion. So, yes. Any more questions, comment, discussion around that?
yes, I do. I have another one on page 36. Well, it's page 2 of 5 for the financial management borrowings. And it's under the heading of policy details. I think it's objectionable that council would construct a policy that is not to be borne entirely by the present ratepayers, but is to be contributed to by future ratepayers who council posits will benefit. I think that's arguable, and I don't see why the future children and babies of this shire should have to pay for something that we want to do now. I think we should be doing it now because we don't know how the future is going to pan out.
Yeah, Councillor Abbott, what this is referring to is that in any 1 year of the council's budget, we simply cannot afford to fund our capital program without borrowings. And this merely refers to the fact that borrowings typically spread over 10 to 20 years. So the intent of that is just to flag the fact that those loans were repaid over the longer period, and obviously that longer period goes into future generations.
It is. I find that very problematic that we refer to the future generations having to pay our bills now when we over borrow because we're starting to overcapitalise, and perhaps we shouldn't be overcapitalising on things.
Okay, any more questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 48. C 12.1, committee membership. We'll just quickly go through them. 1 is infrastructure services, leave as is. Yes. 2, the Upper Hunter Library Services Advisory Committee, leave as is. Yes. 3, the Heritage Advisory Committee, leave as is. Yes. Australia Day Working Party Murrundi, Councillor Burns. Yes, I'll stick my hand up for that, Mr. Mayor. The Sustainability Advisory Committee, leave as is. The Murrundi Town Revitalisation Committee, Councillor Burns. Yes, Mr. Mayor, if that's the will of the council. The Upper Hunter and Kiora Youth Music Committee is a staff member, correct? Yes. Would you like someone to move that? Move Councillor Fisher, second. Councillor Campbell. Questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 51, C 12.2, Scone Upper Hunter Regional Sale Yards Committee. Move Councillor Fisher, second Councillor Burns. Questions, comment, discussion? All in favour?
Yes. No, I've got a question.
Councillor Fisher.
Yeah, just on page 55, can someone update on the solid separator? Is that an old thing or is that a new addition that isn't working?
As far as I can understand that, Councillor Fisher, that's a separator that is not working to its capacity in the pond, but they're going to transfer that up to the truck wash and try and get some use out of it up there.
Mr. Mayor, yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, if I may comment.
Yes.
On page 52, the general business and referring to the third sentence down, Mr. Taylor thanked council for the smooth and professional interactions over the last few months. The manager business services advised staff from Gunnedah Council had visited the sale yards and were very complimentary of the facility. I just think that's very much a feather in the council's cap, that after a lot of criticism, etc., because I know Gunnedah are going to upgrade and build a new facility. Now, if they thought that our facility was not good, they wouldn't have come down and looked. And I think that's something that's very much complimentary to the staff and all those that have been associated with the sale yards, that we've had a visit from a very large. They're one of the largest sale yards in New South Wales. There's Dubbo, Gunnedah, and Wagga are really the large sale yards. So I think it's really good, and we should compliment all those that have been involved, and especially our Mayor, Maurice Collison, who has been very, very good in the way in which, and practical in the way in which that he has tried to advise and get things done at that sale yards.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Any more questions, comments?
Yes. Yes. Thank you. On page 53, please can I have further details on incident 276 with respect to 2 calves dying from nitrate poisoning and why it was incorrectly entered into the vault system as a motor vehicle accident? That's one question. And then, please, could I have more details on incident 238 and the death of 70 cows from nitrate poisoning, and what was the result of the investigation now that it is completed? Also, how much did it cost the community with respect to the breakdown of the sludge pump, and why did it happen given instructions for pumping operations or operating are fairly straightforward, i.e. pumps need to be pumping something?
Thank you, Councillor.
So I was just wondering, has there been an inspection?
We'll take them on notice. Apart from the loss of the cattle, we've had this at several sale yards committees. It wasn't a council's fault or council's problem at the time. It was wholly and solely dealt with outside council, and that's months ago. So it's certainly been dealt with.
Well, I'd like more detail. I'd like answers to those questions that I just put to you.
There's a full veterinary report on it. We'll get it through to you. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. I'm not finished. On page 54, with respect to Dean Taylor offering thanks to David Gatwood, Brett Peel and Jane Bennett for the professional manner in which this incident was handled, which incident was that?
That was the incident you were just talking about, the loss of the cattle.
Okay, it wasn't clear. And what is Stock Live on page 54?
Online cattle selling.
Right, thank you.
No more questions, comment, discussion. All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 57. Moved Councillor Watts, second Councillor Fisher. Questions, comment, discussion.
Yes, I have a question with respect to the nomination for the new committee member. Is that different for the White Park Committee as opposed to the Scone Revitalisation Committee when nominations came to council?
Through the Mayor, I can respond to that one. The nomination is, the charter for the White Park Committee has a list of groups that make up the committee, and this is just appointing the particular person from that group to the committee. So it's slightly different to the way the previous ones work.
Thank you.
No more questions, comment, discussion. All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 62, C 12.4, Australia Day Working Party, Marundi. Move Councillor Burns, second Councillor Campbell. Questions, comment, discussion. All in favour? Against? Carried. Page 67, C 12.5, Australia Day Scone and Aberdeen districts. Move Councillor Driscoll, second Councillor Watts. Questions, comment, discussion. All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 71, F 12.1, Annual Finance Statements. Move Councillor Fisher, second Councillor Burns. Questions, comment, discussion. All in favour?
I have one.
Against?
I have a question. I have a question.
Question, Councillor Abbott.
Yes, I still don't have access online to the ARIC agendas, so I just thought I'd ask that now, if that could be looked into, please. And I do the other councillors.
We can get that fixed, Councillor. I'll get that done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any more questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 74, G 12.1, Bushfire Local Economic Recovery Fund Grant Applications. Move Councillor Driscoll, second Councillor Fisher. Any questions, comment, discussion?
Yes.
Councillor Abbott.
I just wonder, how is this relevant, this funding for all the things that have been suggested, which I think are great, but how does this Bushfire Local Economic Recovery Fund Programme, yes, how is it relevant? I mean, I know that some parts of the Shire were caught in the bushfires, But shouldn't this be for communities that were really, really impacted by bushfires?
Mr. GM.
Well, we've been listed as a beneficiary of this fund, and which is a wonderful thing. Look, in terms of the criteria, you'll see that on page 75, and sort of we workshopped all these projects internally, and we feel that they all fit quite comfortably in one of those 5 categories: enabling infrastructure, industry and business development, social development, natural environment and resource development, and built environment adaptation. So we have thought quite closely about these projects, and we just feel that they do meet the criteria. It's not to say that everyone will be successful, because there's obviously going to be a lot of competition for the money, but I think these programs have merit and they meet the criteria of the funding stream.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, why did we qualify though? I don't understand why we did. And also I note that the closure date for the grant was the 11th of December. So have we missed out anyway?
We have been declared bushfire affected before because we had a bushfire in the western part of the Shire.
We had some pretty good ones in the east too, I might add. Anyway, no more questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Against? Carried. Over to page 9.
I'm actually against. No, I'm against. I'm against this pork barrelling. So you can put my name down as against.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Abbott's against it. All the rest of councillors are in favour.
Mr Mayor, we should all have our names listed for in favour and against.
Okay, councillors Watts, Fisher, Burns, Campbell, Driscoll and myself in favour. Councillor Abbott against. Thank you. Over to page 91, G 12.2 Code of Conduct Complaints. Move Councillor Driscoll, second Councillor Burns. Questions, comment, discussion?
Yes.
Councillor Abbott.
I have a comment, and it's been a long time coming. So I'd like to comment that the Code of Conduct process is one that this council has weaponised to stifle dissent. In the past 4 years, I believe that I'm the only councillor who has been found to have breached the Code of Conduct, knowingly or unknowingly, by act or omission, as a result of this council going after me for either speaking to the...
Point of order, please. Point of order.
Why?
Code of conduct is confidential and we're not going to discuss it. Thank you. You can do it to the General Manager in person, but you cannot do it.
This is about me. I can say.
Councillor Abbott, point of order, please. You cannot discuss complaints.
What I can say is this council has wasted thousands of dollars for going after councillors.
Order, please.
Why is that a point of order?
Order.
Why is that a point? Please, can you explain?
You can bring the question to the General Manager if you wish, but we are not discussing it in open council. Any more questions, comment, discussion?
Yes. Why would anyone run for council?
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Any more questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Aye. Against?
I'm against it.
Okay, again, we'll put Councillor Watts, Fisher, Burns, Campbell, Driscoll, Collison for, Councillor Abbott against. Carried. G 12.3, page 97. Move Councillor Driscoll, second Councillor Burns. Any questions, comment, discussion? Comment, Councillor Watts.
Volker, yes. I'd just like to say what a great initiative it was, and it has been a good outcome, but there is still quite a lot of things that are sitting in the streets, and if we could do that clean up or at least send a letter out, because I mean it's defeating the purpose if we're going to go about and pick up things we shouldn't be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watts. Councillor Burns.
Yeah, I'll echo the councillor's comments there and just say that we're getting better at it. I think we've got a long way to go, but we are getting better at it, especially when you look at this budget. The last calendar year, 2019, was $156,000. This year we went in at 102. So I think we are getting better at it and we're getting cheaper at it too. So Keep it up.
Thank you, councillor Burns. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, look, I believe that especially in the Merriwa area, look, it is a good initiative, and I think that it's been well received. Perhaps there are some hiccups with some of the types of waste that were not picked up, but on the other hand, I think we've got to look on it, as has been said previously, that it is a good initiative, and also it's well recognised, I believe, by the majority of people within the towns in the Shire.
Thank you, councillor Campbell. No more questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Over to page 100, G 12.4, 2019-2020 annual report. Move councillor Driscoll, second councillor Burns. Any questions, comment, discussion?
Yes, I have a comment.
Rabbit.
Yes, it looks lovely and it is wonderful, but essentially it's tantamount to ignoring all action on climate change. We still don't have concrete policies, and I just want to note it, given that we're noting the annual report.
Take it on notice. Thank you. Comment? All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, we've dealt with G 12.5. So we'll move over to 12.6, which is you've got a copy of. Councillor Watts, you leaving the room. G 12.6, sorry. Request for donations. Okay, councillors, you got it in front of you there. You've got a mover.
Yeah, I'll move it with a small amendment.
Move councillor Burns with a small amendment.
Sorry, Mr Mayor. I'll move the recommendation that council approve the donation of $450 to the Scone Neighbourhood Resource Centre for their Christmas hamper program. The hamper program is a really, really big one, and I think an extra $50 from the ratepayers won't hurt.
Thank you, councillor Burns. We've got a second for that small amendment. Yep. Councillor Driscoll. Any questions, comment, discussion around it? All in favour? Aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Councillor Watts, the recommendation that council approve a donation of $450 to the Scone Neighbourhood Research Centre for their Christmas hamper program. Your Christmases all come at once.
Very appreciative of all the people involved, and all that will receive it will be very appreciative too. Thank you.
Okay, councillors, over to page 125. Revised Code of Meeting Practice. Move councillor Burns. Second, councillor Driscoll. Questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Aye. Against? Against, councillor Abbott's against? So again, councillors, show of hands, please, for the motion. Councillor Watts, Fisher, Burns, Campbell, Driscoll, Collison, for. Councillor, well, we just got one, there's not. So councillor Abbott against. Over to page 128, revised code of conduct. Mover? Move councillor Burns. Second, councillor Campbell. Any questions, comment, discussion?
Yes, I'd like to comment. Again, I think this is
No, we can't hear you, councillor Abbott.
okay. I'll say, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm objecting to this because it stifles dissent and it's not in the public interest.
Thank you. So we've done the vote. Oh, we better do it again, sorry. So you're all in favour? So we've got the same again. Collison, Watts, Fisher, Burns, Campbell and Driscoll. Against, councillor Abbott. Over to page 132. Policies review, corporate services. The mover, councillor Watts. Second, councillor Burns. Any questions, comment, discussion?
Yes.
Councillor Abbott.
Yes, I'm not voting on this, given that in council's own report, it states that the following policies are due for review and were not able to be completed at the time of this report. I am not supporting draft formats, and I think that we need to actually review before we adopt them. And this has come very late. It's a very big document, and we got our papers late.
I disagree. My papers were on time.
We said
Was everyone's papers on Thursday? All councils received it? Thursday?
Yes.
Councillor Abbott, did you receive yours Thursday?
I thought we had, it was 7, we had 3 business days. Is it only 2 business days?
5 calendar days, councillor Abbott. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
But I do wonder how we can review and adopt at the same time, and when council says they're not complete in council's own report.
Business days. No, that was right, Thursday.
Pardon?
Yep.
Well, actually, if it's 5 calendar days and we got them on Thursday, that's 4 calendar days.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to speak. Look, I live at Merrywall and I ring up Robin or someone over here. They are very, very cooperative in trying to get my papers there, and they go out of their way to do that. Sometimes they're printed at Merrywall and they're printed as soon as possible. This last week was very, very short, very, very difficult. So I wanted to defend the council and those directors that do that and try and get those papers out. I elect quite often to have them picked up on Fridays because my daughter-in-law works in town, or sometimes someone of my family will pick them up. But the council has tried very hard, and I commend them, especially for this last week, and from the council meeting in the short time that they have endeavoured to get the papers to it. I received mine on Thursday.
Thank you, councillor Campbell. Any more questions, comment, discussion? All in favour? Aye. Against? Again, councillor, hands up again, please, councillors. Collison, Watts, Fisher, Burns, Campbell and Driscoll. 4. Against, councillor Abbott. Over to page 148. Policies review, environmental and community services. Moved, councillor Fisher. Second, councillor Campbell. Oh, councillor Burns, sorry. Any questions, comment, discussion?
Yeah,
All in favour?
Same, I'd like to comment. I have the same comment for all of these policies, that we should be reviewing them like properly.
Okay, so we'll go through it again. All in councils in favour? Councillor Driscoll, Campbell, Burns, Fisher, Watts, Collison. Against? Councillor Fisher, Abbott. Carried. 195, policies review, infrastructure services. Mover. Move councillor Burns. Second, councillor Driscoll. Any questions, comment, discussion?
My comment is the same as before, that there's a lot of stuff here. Has every councillor really read everything?
All in favour, raise a hands. Councillor Burns.
I have read it.
Thank you.
And that's why I moved it.
Thank you. All in favour, councillor Collison, Watts, Fisher, Burns, Campbell, Driscoll. Against, councillor Abbott. Over to page 195. Didn't do that, did I? No. I've done that one, sorry. Yep, okay. Can't come back to that. Okay, councillors. Oh, hang on, I've got another one here somewhere. Questions with notice. Councillors, in front of you, QWN 12.1, question with notice. By Councillor Abbott.
My questions didn't make it. I had 9 other questions that didn't make the papers.
When did you put them in, Councillor Abbott?
I sent them on the 7th of December at 11:57.
Anyone got an update on, Robin, you never received them? Yep. Okay, well, all we can do with that is take them on notice and thank you.
Okay, so I'll read them out then.
Mr Mayor, maybe you could do what you're doing with mine and have individual replies.
That will do them. Councillor Watts has asked for hers and they won't reply, so she'll have individual replies, Councillor Abbott, and I'll get the General Manager to do the same with your questions. Thank you.
Okay, so do I read my questions out now?
No,
Why not?
because we don't know whether you actually got them in. We've got to try and source whether they
I can assure you, I'm looking at my email right now. That is very convenient because I think some of these questions you don't want to answer on the Aero Club.
You got a question with notice here? For notation only?
I had 10 questions.
Robin, we'll just forgive me, see if we can find them, please. Thank you. And this other one's only for notation.
Why is it only for notation?
Well, the recommendations.
What does that mean? Why is the hiccup? I mean, you know, we used to be able to just ask questions. Now we're told we have to give notice. I've given notice. I got it in the whole week before midday, and only one question made it. Only the one on the heatwave plan and looking at Moira Shire Council's heatwave plan.
You've got a
But I
response.
had other ones.
On the bottom of your question, you got the response. Have you got that in front of you?
Yes, I've got that response. Thank you. But that came late as well. That came today. But I asked other questions. I asked questions a lot on the airport, and and I'd like to be able to read them out so that people who are listening can hear, and that they can hear that I'm doing my job as a councillor.
Mr Mayor, I thought that a lot of the questions were asked at the infrastructure, and I thought they were answered.
But you don't know, actually through you, Mr Mayor,
Robin's having a look to see.
Councillor Campbell does not know what I asked.
Robin is just having a look to see if we can find the questions. Did you send them to Robin, Councillor?
I sent them to Christian because he's the acting general manager, to Mr Ennard Voldson.
Yes. You haven't got them? Okay, Councillor Abbott, we're going to go into closed council and we're going to come back into open, and meantime, we might be able to source your questions. Well, it's notation only, isn't it? Or do you have to move her?
Oh, it's only for notation.
Are you happy, Councillor Abbott, for your questions with notice? The responses at the bottom, are you happy with that?
No, I'm not happy because you didn't answer my 10 questions. So I'm not happy. I've had one question answered, so I'm not happy.
So you're not happy with the response?
I'm not happy that my 10 questions were not answered.
I
I didn't send one question.
This is the first question we've all got in front of us. And the response at the bottom, are you happy with this question 1 and the response?
Okay, I'm 1/10 happy because that response was okay, but I didn't get any response.
Are you happy with the response of this one question? And then we're going to move.
I'm happy with that response.
Okay, thank you. And now we're going to move.
They're not my questions.
Now we're going to move into closed council while staff see if they can find your questions. Okay, we've got someone like to move us into closed council, please. Move Councillor Watts, second Councillor Campbell. All in favour? Against? Carried.
No, I'd just like to note, I'm against the way we go into closed council so much.
Councillor Abbott, we're trying to find your questions. I can't allow you to put the questions through until staff finds them on the computer.